okay, we have a memory box and we put everything there. And we think, okay, imagine our grandkids finding this box with all of our handwritten notes one day and seeing how beautiful our love was.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today marks a truly historic moment for First Rounds on Me. It is our absolute honor to unveil the first, and hopefully of many, an undeniably remarkable, bona fide love story, marriage story that has blossomed through our platform. In a way, their love story is not just their own. It is a beacon of hope, a source of inspiration, and a promise that love is still alive and well. It serves as a heartwarming reminder that deep, genuine connections are still very much within our grasp, ready to be discovered when you actually decide to meet in person. Jordan and Daniella, we're so grateful to have you with us today, and we cannot wait to hear your love story. And babe, it's not that hard.
I know.
Pretty easy.
Beautiful.
That was
Literally
amazing.
so excited.
Yeah, we're so honored.
When we got your email, I think that there was just like me and Liv were just rejoicing behind the scenes because it's like, this is exactly why my handsome husband started this, this app and wanted to be able to do it. Do we need to fix the mic or is it good?
He was signaling that.
No, it's okay.
It keeps like going far, so.
Say something for him.
Hi.
He's concerned.
We can see the concern. We want to hear Daniella's beautiful voice.
Yeah, of course.
Needs to be a little toy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, good. Yeah, her voice is important. You'll find out later in the
Very
story
important.
why that's
Oh my
important.
gosh.
Okay, awesome.
Listen.
See, she knows already what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
The wives' voices are always the most important, my darling. Yeah, as I was saying, it's just when we got your email, it was just the greatest source of joy to know that two lovely people like yourself had truly found love through the app, and you are our first bona fide success story. So
That's amazing.
it fills us with
know
all.
and feel.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah, and we
beautiful.
appreciate like you really reaching out because you reach out to multiple people through multiple channels, right? I think you did a DM, an email.
Yeah, I DM'd you guys on Instagram, and just like being familiar with how social worked, I don't always expect a company's social media platform to answer every single DM.
We have
they
Liv,
get.
so she's on top of it.
So, well, she's great at her job.
Yes.
so let me
Amazing
just
at her
put that
job.
out there.
Don't tell too many people though, because she's gonna start to be poached.
So if you knew me as an everyday person, you would know that I'm very diligent and very organized. So I was determined as part of a surprise for Daniella to get a hold of someone. Like I was going to stop at nothing until I did it. So I sent the DM and then I was like, let me just send a backup of an email to whatever contact email address I can find
Yeah.
for First Round on Me. And we'll see what happens. And if they don't respond, they don't respond. I can at least tell her that I tried.
Yeah.
And then I got a response and got on the phone with Olivia, and I was gonna save it until I proposed to her to inform her that, by the way, we just got engaged and we're also gonna go do this interview. But I was so excited to be here that I was to like bring her on this because I knew she was gonna love it. It was literally like a random. Was it an afternoon or breakfast? I don't remember what it was.
It was dinner.
Was it dinner? Okay. It was a random dinner where I just, in my head, I was like, you know what? I can't keep this from her anymore. I just have to tell her. So I hand wrote her a note to invite her to come here with me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, you're
So
such a
special.
romantic. A handwritten note, mate, that goes a long way.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
all about handwritten notes.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
He's such a
150,000%.
hopeless romantic.
To what
old-fashioned.
context? So like when does a handwritten note deserve to be written? Like literally, like I'm leaving the house.
Our third date, we played this game called We're Not Strangers.
I
I'm-
love We're Not Strangers.
Yeah, so at the end of the game, you're supposed to write a handwritten note to the other person, and they're supposed to open it after you leave each other. And that was the first one, and it never stopped after that one. It was just one
Wow.
after the other.
Hannah writes a lot of notes to me. I do not reciprocate.
He reciprocates in other ways, but I'm kind of like you. It's like there's something just so intimate and so romantic about
Yeah.
writing your feelings out in something handwritten.
Yeah.
Like it's just beautiful.
That's-
Oh my god, it just
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
after that we have a journal together. We
Oh,
we
wow.
write a lot to each other. We handwritten everything. So
That's so
It's
special.
a big thing of our relationship.
I don't know what possessed me to do it on the first one that she talked about after we did the game, but it was also dated, time stamped, and with the location. So now that's just like the format for everything we
So-
do.
Yeah.
so
I'm
I-
gonna cry just thinking
I
about
see
it.
like 150 years from now when your great grandkids are like,
That's
Oh my
That's
God, we-
exactly the
Yeah.
point.
we
to
found
be honest
great
with you.
grandma and great grandpa's letters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, that's gonna be really
That's
cool.
the whole thing. We're like, okay, we have a memory box and we put everything there. And we think, okay, imagine our grandkids finding this box with all of our handwritten notes one day and seeing how beautiful our love was, and just want to set the example.
But they're gonna think that you're way older than you are, because you're gonna be like, weren't they alive in 2023? Why were they writing to each other? I thought
Right.
writing stopped in 2023.
Seriously.
Well, it's literally, you can palpably feel the love between you. So
Aw.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys because it's becoming so much more normal to meet somebody on a dating app and
Mhm.
to have a relationship and get married. And we actually met on Hinge. And when we did it, I was trying to reach out to Hinge to, like, get publicity on, like, okay, we met on Hinge, we're now married. But the fact that you're our first and that we all met on a dating app is really cool. So
It
it's
is
like
cool.
a
We've
little
got that in
special moment for
common.
both.
We're bonding over
Yeah.
Exactly.
I sort of just the business mind in me wondered if there, because I looked through like a lot of your marketing and like website and stuff, and I was like, I wonder if they have like testimonials somewhere.
Yeah,
that are,
so
like,
You are our first.
yeah, Liv is working on everything, and part of her strategy is like we need to get first rounds and meet testimonials. And when you're only around for a year, it takes time for people to have
For
like
sure.
success stories
Yeah.
and real success stories. So simultaneously, when she was working on it, you reached out. She's like, I don't know if I manifested this, but we just got our first love story. And I was like, you're lying to me. She said, no, look. And I was like, is it real? She said, I don't know. I have to talk to them. So I think she spoke to you.
She spoke to me, yeah.
And I was like, is he normal? And she's like,
I don't know. If you ask her, she might tell you I'm
well,
not
same
normal.
thing with
but-
her. She's like, you're a weirdo. But she's like, he seems really normal. I don't know. He seems great. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot.
Let's bring him into New York. Let's get him here. All right, so I want to like bring it all the way back
For sure.
to, because clearly you met on First Rounds on Me. What initially kind of like drew you to each other? Like what was the prompts or like the photos and the profiles, or if any of that kind of drew you to each other?
And who started it?
Yeah.
What do you want to?
You
All right,
started, so you can start.
I'll start since I started it. So this kind of might lead into like a medium length story. So I
No, that's great.
Lay it on us.
But I remember vividly first time I opened the app.
How'd you find the app? Sorry.
So two ways. Olivia and I discussed this a little bit. Number one, I overheard two like friend of friends talking about it in a bar
Really?
because they were standing right next to me and the bar was packed, but I wasn't involved in the conversation.
Okay.
I just like heard it. Out
Word
of
of mouth marketing, Liv.
Yeah, and then I was like, that sounds like an interesting concept, because I reached a point where I was like, we talked about before you came in, where I was just like over so much back and forth and trying to manage schedules with going on different dates and things like that. I just got tired of doing that. Like I have better things to do with my time. So I was like, that's an interesting concept. And then I don't know if like Big Brother was listening or what happened,
Definitely listen.
but I got an ad on Instagram for it like a couple days later, and I was like, all right, you got me. I'll try it. So, and I hadn't been on dating apps. I had been off of them for like 6 months at that point, just again, because I got tired of trying to manage that schedule with my job and other things going on at the time. So I downloaded the app. She was one of the first women that I saw and was the first one that I requested, like put in a date request with. In terms of what got me, it was her smile. Her current picture
Wow.
on her current like AVI on Instagram is the picture that I saw first, I think.
Was it your first picture on the profile?
I think it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. She just like kind of has this little cute head tilt with this big, huge smile on her face. And I was like, oh. And then I scrolled down, and just being like part Puerto Rican, I could tell that she had some sort of Latina in her. And I was like, oh, I'm further interested.
Yeah.
And I read some of her things, and one of the ones that stuck out to me was like one of the written prompts she had written was, I want a relationship to feel like we've been dating forever.
Wow.
That's got
And
goosebumps. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, that's something that I also want. So then I sent her a date request.
So, question, and I want to get to how you found it
Yeah.
as well. But when you were looking at the profile, did you think differently based on previous apps, or are you like, I'm going to be more thoughtful looking through her profile, kind of like you did? You went through the whole thing, saw things that you really liked because you knew I'm asking her out on an actual date. Like I'm not just matching with her.
Mhm.
So were you more cognizant of, let me be really thoughtful about this?
100. It's a great question, and that's 100% was my thought process, because the way I understood the app to work is we were only going to have a couple hours in the chat window beforehand. which I think is great. But also, like, you really have to be mentally prepared and intentional, like, from a thoughtful standpoint, to be ready to go on that date, unless you just want to sit there and be awkward and, like,
Yeah,
not
and that's
talk.
kind of we had a lot of team meetings yesterday, and one thing that we preach is like retraining how people use dating apps
Mhm.
because previous dating apps you don't really have to think, you just swipe and
Yep.
use it like mindlessly.
Yeah.
But hearing it from you guys, because what I tell the team is like we're retraining how people have to take a second to be like, I am going to go on a date with this person.
Yeah.
Do I actually want to do this?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
incredible.
Danielle, how did you find the app, and how
Well-
did you receive Jordan's date request?
Yeah, so I actually found the app. I started following this girl that did a 28 day.
Oh, Marin, yeah.
Marilyn. I
Marin,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, Life of Marilyn.
Life of Marin NYC.
Something like
yeah.
that. I love her. She's so cool. I followed all her journey throughout the month of February, if I
Yeah.
recall correctly. And she promoted the app, and I was like, okay, I'll try. I had been in other apps previously, and I was also very tired of the whole thing about having to engage with people, and then you talk with someone for a certain period of time, and then the conversation kind of like gets lost, and I was just so done about it. So I downloaded the app, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I've been getting all these requests on dates, and this is great. This is fun. So but actually he was the first person that sent me a request that I accepted. So and I saw your profile, and you didn't have many pictures, but you had 2 pictures, and those were 2 great pictures. So I
Wow,
was
only 2
like-
pictures.
Only had 2, and they were very strategically chosen because one was a very professional headshot in a suit, and the other one was my friend's wedding.
So that's
Yeah.
a that's
Oh,
a
2
big guy
suits.
problem that we
100%.
don't have enough photos to even get to 5.
Mhm.
So
You can get-
I hear you, but you don't have that problem anymore, thankfully.
No,
But now when you had all these date requests, was it the same thing for you as a woman where it's like if you were on Tinder, Bumble, or Hinge, you're like, okay, I'll just accept it and then maybe talk to them a little bit, but you knew that they were actually asking you out in person, where you were like, I don't want to accept these date requests because I really just don't want to meet these people in person.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, many of the times that I didn't accept those requests, it's because they asked me out to places that I had 0 interest on going.
Okay.
Not because not to sound like I'm pickier, but just like a beer bar. I'm not a beer person. I'm not type of person who's just going to on a date to have beer.
Mm.
So
You're
I
a
was
woman that
not-
knows what she wants. There's
I was
nothing wrong
not
with that.
interested in engaging. Like, if we're not going to connect from the beginning, I don't want that. Maybe I was just being extra, but it
No,
worked
you were
out.
being-
It
you were
worked
being
out.
who you were, and it
You were
worked.
being intentional about what you want and how you want
Yeah.
it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So
Which is why I love her.
Yeah. One of the many reasons,
yeah.
I'm sure.
So most of those, they didn't work out, like because of the place or schedule, or I was just not interested in the person. Like, it was just not not that I had a specific type. I was very open to everything. Not everything, that's not but I was just not attracted physically to the person. So you kind of, I was curious about you because you didn't have many pictures, and I liked the
There's an
place
art
you
to it,
had.
low
key.
And you invited me out to a place that I actually wanted to try.
What was the place?
So shameless plug for a restaurant in Philadelphia called Mission Taqueria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds delicious.
So
Yeah.
the thought behind it sounds like that's a Latin place as well.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so you put 2 and 2 together. You're Latin,
Yeah,
she's
I
Latin.
was thinking about it when you asked him that question. I was like, is that why you chose this place?
No, it truly
You
is not.
saw my
I just
profile and
I just love that place, and I had no idea if she had been there before or not. But it's like it's a good date spot because the drinks are really good. She just said she's not a beer person, so like I know the cocktails are good. You don't have to have many because they're strong, so you can like go and have
Love
one
that.
and take the edge off a little bit and have a good conversation. And their food is incredible.
That's awesome. Now, was any of that in your profile? Like, oh, I like this kind of date. or
Not really.
Okay.
No, I don't remember having any of that there. I think my only prompt was the prompt that he said about wanting to be in a relationship that feels like we've always been dating, or that we never stop dating each other.
So it seems like, I mean, just speaking about this for 10 minutes, that you both were so intentional about like what you actually wanted
Mhm.
Yeah.
from this app. And
Yeah.
that's another thing that we preach is like, being really genuine and intentional about your expectations. And you
Yeah.
guys clearly did that, and
Yeah.
now you're here.
It was just like had to be farther odds than winning the lottery. It feels like, because what are the chances that two people on any app come across each other like that at like the perfect moment in time where
Well,
you're
I
both in
think-
that headspace?
I
Like,
think
We can
the-
relate to that
Yeah.
quite heavily.
Yeah, and I think the odds would be crazy on other apps, but that's exactly what we're trying to do.
that's
is
true.
Yeah.
Reduce those odds through people
Yeah.
like yourselves.
But
Yeah.
it's also on the person who's using the app to be like, as you kind of both of you said, you had many requests. You were kind
Yeah.
of looking through profiles and you saw her and you're like, oh, there's something that sticks out to you
Yeah.
about
Mhm.
that person. And the fact that you picked the perfect place when she'd been asked on so many beer
Yeah.
dates and she was like, nah, and then you picked this perfect place for her. It's like it really is in a way meant to be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
for
it was
sure.
actually.
Oh, here we go.
You know what?
So
This is the
this
medium
is-
part of the
this is a
story that I
fun-
mentioned.
Fun fact about this whole thing: he requested a day for Monday, and then Monday comes. 2 hours, I think it was 2 hours before the day, the chat opens, and he messages me right away. 2 hours.
Can I pause you right there?
Yeah.
She got to know this about me as time has gone on, but like I'm a very punctual person. I don't
I'm
like
not
to be
cheating.
late.
I am too.
like
You guys
if-
seem very
if
aligned.
there's a
Yeah.
scheduling
Yeah,
if there's a
very aligned.
scheduling issue, it triggers me. It drives me so nuts.
I am right
And
there
I
with
am
you, mate.
so like, oh,
And-
I'll
Me
go
too.
with the flow.
And in the middle of the day, we're later in the day at this point because the date was scheduled at like 7:30. At like 9:30 in the morning, I realized that Mission Taqueria is closed on Mondays. All day, I'm freaking out because I'm
Unfortunately.
like itching for this chat
But you
window to
could
open.
so because you guys were new to the app, there's so many things like you could reschedule, and like if you saw dates from guys that you didn't like you could change to a different spot. But this is a good point.
So, anyways, continue now. I had to put that out
Yeah.
there.
No, so 2 hours before the date, he goes, he messages me through the app and he says, I'm so sorry. I just realized I'm so dumb. I booked a place that's it's not open on Monday. So can we reschedule? And I said, yeah, actually works better. I was busy at work that day, so and then he's like, but the chat's gonna close. And I was like, are you trying to get my phone number? And you can continue.
Yeah, I was faced with the decision of like, all right, I just already messed this up before we even got to the first date.
You didn't mess
So,
it up. We messed it up because we didn't tell you that it was closed on Monday.
Either way, it was my responsibility to check at least at that point in time, and I just didn't do that because I don't know if I was too excited or what. I just didn't even think about that, and I was like, all right. So the rescheduling point is a good one that you made, and I was like, I don't want to run the risk of rescheduling because, to be honest with you, this woman is hot. So I'm not naive. I know I'm not the only guy that was requesting a date with her, and I'm not really trying to like get my foot in edgewise on another day in her calendar. So there was that going through my mind, and then I was like, this is embarrassing because I already screwed up the scheduling. Like, this is just how my mind works. Knowing her
Yeah.
now, she didn't even think twice about it. She was like,
But you're spiraling.
Right,
Yeah,
I'm just like-
I can picture him freaking out in his desk, like, oh my god.
And then I was faced with a decision. I was like, all right, do I just like be a man and ask her for her number? Like the worst she's gonna say is no. Like I'm just processing all these thoughts. And then I just shot my shot and
Yeah.
ended up with her phone number. So we
Perfect.
like kind of used the chat the way it was supposed to be used, but also not really.
We don't want to say we cheated because
No.
Yeah.
But I feel like
if
if things had been different, if the cantina had been open, then you would have utilized it the way that it was. But
sure.
like you, as you said, you didn't want to lose out on this opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she's a beautiful woman. You're like, I don't want to like lose out on this opportunity. So the fact that you got a number was really stepping up and being like, nah, I'm assertive.
yeah.
Let's go out another day.
and the app is just a stepping stone. So however
Right.
however it helps you, that's fine.
Yeah.
So it helped you not to the full extent, but it got you 80% of the way there.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And it got you in front of each other somehow. So that's all that
See,
matters.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's a learning process for everybody. Like you guys using the app, us getting customer feedback.
Yeah.
So all these things you're talking about, we've kind of made those adjustments to help.
Good.
We haven't
next
used it
people.
since March, so we wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But
That's
There you
perfect.
go.
That's the goal.
You definitely didn't cheat though. You definitely utilize it in the exact way that we hope
Yeah.
people utilize
that's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
So to put a button on that story, like I ended up with her number, and then again, just in the interest of transparency, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. I told her very honestly, I was like, I'm not the kind of guy, especially before meeting you, that's just gonna blow your phone up all the time, like trying to get to know you especially because the point of the app that we were on,
Yeah.
like I would genuinely rather have something to talk about with you for 2 or 3 hours if it all goes well than just sit here and like not waste it all over text, but
That's a great way to put it.
like
Waste it
it's
all over
just
text.
like it's
Yeah.
just more fun in my opinion to do it in person. So I told her I was like, please don't take it personally if I'm not answering you all the time or not
Yeah.
like trying to start a conversation, because we ended up scheduling a date for the next Monday, a week
Okay.
later.
Oh.
So I was like, for the next week, don't be weirded out if I'm not like talking to
That's
you. Like,
one of the first texts you said.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry if I don't respond a lot. I'd rather just wait.
I just wanted to be intentional about setting expectations.
Yeah.
That's really all
That's
it came down to.
awesome. That's
It's beautiful
so awesome.
communication though, and truly, because I feel like
Yeah.
if you didn't say that, then she would have been like, why isn't this guy texting me back? And I don't really want to go on a date with him.
Right.
The fact that you were just like, listen, I want to keep all of that juicy, beautiful conversation for in person.
Well, what ended up happening in reality was from the moment we woke up until the moment we went to sleep for 7 days straight, constant communication.
Oh.
On text.
On
On
text.
text. Just didn't stop talking.
And it was
I
so,
was
it
like,
was just
"Where is
like,
it?"
yeah, it was just like natural, free flowing. Like
Yeah,
it was not laborious at all. It was just.
Love that word.
Mhm.
Sorry.
It's-
It's a
all
great
good.
word.
Too big of a word. For
Great
me.
use of that
What is
word.
laborious?
It didn't. Go ahead.
No, I'm like Spanish speaker, and he uses this type of words all the time. Sometimes we're like if we are having important conversations, I'm like, what are
What?
you saying?
Daniella,
Like,
We both speak English, and she says words, and I'm like, is that Australian? What language
Yeah.
is that? Like, I don't know what you're
I
talking
just have a
about.
deep love of the English language. I always
no,
have.
he's very well spoken.
It just means like it was easy for us.
Okay.
It wasn't strenuous in any way, shape,
Yeah.
or
Thank
form.
you.
All right. So, how was the first? Well, considering the fact that you talked for basically a week straight, right? What was the first date like?
You go ahead. You go first.
Well, we
She was
ended
late.
up going to Nepal.
This is
I was
literally
late.
parallel, so parallel to our own story. It's ridiculous.
She was exactly 7 minutes late.
Oh my!
What was I?
He was
10?
10 minutes
10
late.
minutes late.
Anyways,
Oh really?
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's so funny. He actually made a reservation at an Italian restaurant, Via Locusta. It's beautiful. And it was close. He was intentional about. I think you were. I told you I live in Rittenhouse
was.
area, and that restaurant was super close. So he made a reservation close to where I lived, which was actually really thoughtful. And then he said, I think you said 7:30. I got off work at 6, went home, like quickly get ready, and I was 7 minutes late.
That's
and
pretty good,
I
though,
had
for
no
an hour and a
idea
half.
he was so like
Punctual.
structure about schedule at that time. And that's just a joke now. Every time he brings that up, I'm like, okay, I'm the person who's always late. But it was a nice, beautiful day. The place was awesome. We had great food, and we actually shared, which I don't usually share food when I go to places. I like to get my own thing.
Yeah, damn straight.
And then we ended
I'm
up
the same
sha-
way. I don't like to share at all.
But we actually ended up sharing, and it's hard because you're just getting to know the person, and then you have to find things that you both like, and then you have to engage over it. But it was a great day. We never had like an uncomfortable silence moment, or it was just very natural. And yeah, I mean, we had wine. It was just great.
So you felt it was very like, even with the kind of like 7 days of talking, because clearly even just talking to you, we're meant to be together, right?
Yeah.
But there was like, it was just like a beautiful flow of conversation.
Yeah. I was nervous because I was like, what are we gonna talk about? We've been talking all these days, but we actually had so much to talk about. And I think we were both so clear in what we wanted as persons, as individuals.
Mm.
So we were just on the same page. And I think that was just one of the things that set the tone for the day. Like, we're both two grown people talking about important things and not just superficial stuff that's just not going to fulfill if we want to entertain a relationship.
That's such a
So-
beautiful way to put it.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, because like we always tell people on a first date, it's tough to like really get in the weeds of like, oh, I want to be married or I want kids, because it's like, okay, that's a
Yeah.
little too aggressive. But talking about important things about, not Vanderpump Rules or E Network or like
Yeah.
Jersey Shore. It's
Things
like
that are not
things that are
surface
things,
level.
yeah, things
Right,
that mean
right.
something that you guys could figure out. Okay, we have this in common. We don't have this in common. I
Yeah.
want to learn this about you. You want to learn this about me. I
Yeah.
think that's a beautiful way to put it for a first date.
I think we talked a lot about family. Family is very important to me. I think we talked a lot about family, and we had important questions. Like to be our first date, we did have important questions, and that just made me be even more interested in you. And I
Mhm.
think you felt the same way. So I think being previously being in other apps helped me in like to get to know like what do I want and what do I want to ask, what do I want to know from someone, and it just prepared me.
Yeah, and how those and
for
how
this app.
Yeah.
and how those responses back, like kind of not what you expected, but like what you would want for it to continue into a relationship.
Yes.
Because if you were asking those questions and he was like, I don't know, and then
Yeah.
was coming back at you with very surface level stuff, you'd be like, all right, this is not what I.
You know.
what
And that's why we
I'm
say
in.
like every date is not a good date, but every date's important because on all these other apps, you'd talk to people or go on dates
Yeah.
with them
Mhm.
and you knew what you didn't want.
Yes.
And it like built you up for this moment where it's like,
Yeah,
I
for
know
sure.
what I want. I'm going to ask him what I want to ask
You
him.
learn from it, and you learn how to be more intentional about asking the right questions.
I was
for
just
sure.
she just took the words directly out of my mouth. Which on that subject, you guys would, maybe it happens to you too, I don't know. You would not believe the amount of times where like we go to say this exact same thing at the exact same time, or like she just does something that I was thinking. I
Yeah.
didn't say anything about it. I just
Her intuition with me is like
Yeah.
scary. And then I know her so well now. So it's great, but it's also scary because like you can't really get around anything.
You can't hide
lie.
anything.
Yeah, it's
I
like
know.
why are you pissed off? I'm not pissed off. I'm like
See,
You
we're not
I'm
the
like
only
you
ones.
I'm like you moved your eye.
It's
that way.
literally just like the slightest energy change. I'm like, what's wrong?
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
my god,
going on? What's
they're gonna
wrong?
be like best friends after this because I don't have an example for you, but there's been more than one occasion where like something happens and it's an immediate energy shift, and I can't help it because I'm a very hard on my sleeve kind of guy.
Me too.
And she's just like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to talk about it later?
Yeah.
What's better
That's
for you?"
literally verbatim exactly what I'm saying. Like, listen, we can talk about it now, we can talk about it later, but we're gonna talk about it. So you
Yeah.
gotta figure out what thing, like
Get
what
it
you
done.
think.
And now I
Exactly.
just kind of like I don't fight back. I'm like, you're right. She's like, what do you mean I'm right? I'm like, hey, you're right.
He does. He's a very good husband now. He's like, okay, you're right. I'm like, thank you, I am right.
But you don't want me to say I'm right. You're
No.
like, no, fight me back.
I don't want you to
No,
fight
you're
me back.
right.
I want you to have like an open, honest conversation with me about what's happening.
Have an argument.
So I want to ask like a quick question before we kind of dive into like the latter part of your relationship, still kind of within the app. What, compared to other apps, how, because we've kind of talked about the fact that there's like this mindless swiping, right? And
Yeah.
there's like this, which in my opinion is quite inconvenient. Did you find First Rounds on Me to be more convenient or more like easier to navigate and easier to use than previous apps that you've been on?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, I think I found it easier to use because I think I just knew what I wanted, and I was just not doing it for fun, like for entertainment. I was not like, okay, I'm gonna swipe to see who likes me back.
Like validation.
Yeah,
or, like, a social
exactly. I was
media.
not seeking validation. Like, okay, I'm gonna swipe just as much as I can to see who likes me back. I was just it was easier because I knew what I wanted and I knew what I was looking for. So I would say if you're prepared and if you feel like you know what you want, it's going to feel easier for you to use because you go with such a convinced mind of what you are going to set for.
Mm.
So yeah, for me it was definitely easier. I found it better because you don't have to entertain a conversation, waste your time into talking to someone you don't know yet. You don't know someone until you actually meet them in person. So what's the whole point of talking through a screen? Like, and I found that was an amazing feature. Like, it's like kind of like a blind date, but you get a
But,
little
yeah.
sneak peek.
Yeah.
So it's so
Yeah,
fun.
That's how we
like,
explain it to
You
people,
guys
by the way.
you guys are putting everything way better than I do.
We tell people it's like a blind date, but not really.
But
What
not
we
really.
say
I
is
like
like
a blind date
we-
with a sneak peek. That's
Yeah,
very
Yeah,
fun.
exactly.
what we say is we kind of bridge the gap between the old school and the new school of like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
meeting somebody at a bar, blind date,
Yeah.
but like giving you the tool of technology to like help you.
Because technology's here to stay. That's just,
So
yeah.
for me, it was like, this is great. Like I want this. So I would say for me it was better, easier, funner. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
I
for
think.
for me, as we now all know, I'm a big schedule guy,
Yeah.
right? So it was great to just right off the bat knock
Yeah.
that wall
Well-
down of like, here's the schedule now.
Well, you're bringing up great points too, because people always ask like, what's your target demographic? And the way I kind of put it is it's not an age thing. It's like someone who knows what they want,
Yep.
but is successful and busy where they can't just chat and talk to a million people at once. They have to be really intentional about it. Like, I'm only free for this time,
Mhm.
and I just want to meet you in person to either see if I like you, but also if I don't like you, I could then go back to work, get on with my life,
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
try with the next person.
Exactly. And for my answer to your question, just
Mhm.
going back to that, is really echoing what she said of like, I was in such a place of being ready to be very intentional. It was not entertainment for me whatsoever. It wasn't like a hookup thing for me whatsoever. I left that at like age 24. So it was time to be more intentional about that if I was going to go about trying to meet somebody on an app. And it was just very comfortable to do that on First Round on me.
I love that. I love that so much. All right. I love
Hannah's
asking this
so
question.
excited.
I literally like I'm brimming with joy. I'm so excited about this because it's not only like now talking to you guys, it's like you actually mirror our story quite heavily, which is also beautiful. But it's just to see two lovely people like yourself actually utilize the app in the way that it was meant to be utilized,
Yeah.
and you've literally found your soulmate. You found the person that you
For sure did.
love.
Yeah.
All right. So when and how did you know that each other were the one? Like what
Oh,
date was it? When was
we,
it?
We talked about this in the car on the way here. We were reading through like some of the questions and stuff, and I was like, I don't know if I have an exact moment. At first, that's what I thought.
Mm.
And then I thought silently to myself in the car the rest of the way here. So for me, I'll point to two moments that I found valuable. The first one is we went on a trip to Puerto Rico together for my birthday, which was in June. We met in March. And by the end of
Wow.
April, I was like, hey, I'm going to go to Puerto Rico for my birthday. You want to come? And she was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how that got scheduled. It happened. And that was my 29th birthday. And it was the most amazing birthday I've ever had in my entire life
Was
because
it just the two of you?
it was just us.
Nice.
We had an Airbnb in Old San Juan, Puerto Rico. Very old, very cute. Like the Airbnb we were in was, I'm pretty sure, built in like 17 something or other. When it was
Wow.
set, like,
Yeah.
but it was gorgeous. It was modern on the inside. And we were just there for, was it 5 days or 4 days?
5.
Doesn't matter, 4 or 5 days. And she put together a whole itinerary for every single day, which normally I'm the kind of guy that's just like, put me on a beach and give me a drink and don't speak to me for 5 days when I go on vacation. She's not that way. She likes to travel and go
I
do
like to
things
explore.
and experiences and things of that nature. And I was like, you know what? That's something different. I'll bite. Let me broaden my horizon a little
Yeah.
bit with what she likes to do. And there was just a couple moments on that trip that were a really deep bonding experience for me with her. And I think she would tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
And that was one of the two moments where I was like, I kind of already knew she was the one, but I was like, yeah, this, she's it.
So
Like,
really, like after two or 3 months in.
oh, for sure, I
Yeah.
knew. I didn't know when it was gonna happen. I presumed it was gonna be sooner rather than later. All my friends are looking at me like, hey, bro, you all right? You're usually very like methodical about this, and now you're out here like you're into this girl. Like, are you good? And I'm like, dude, I don't know what's going on either. All I can tell you is she's the one. So
Wow.
the moment
Goosebumps
before
all over my
that,
body. Sorry.
the moment before that, I never told her this, so she's learning this for the first time
Okay.
while you're all learning this. It dawned on me while I was in the car on the way here. Prior to Puerto Rico, we took a trip to West Palm Beach, Florida. It was with her family, some of which she hadn't seen for a long time because they're, like she said, she's originally from Venezuela. She has family here in the U.S., Europe, all over the place. Some of them were here from Europe to visit. I almost didn't go on this trip because it was kind of short notice. Again, I'm a schedule guy. But I looked at it and I was like, realistically, these members of her family who I know are very important to her, I don't know when the next opportunity is going to be that I'm going to meet them, and I am pretty sure that I'm going to marry this woman.
How far after meeting her?
When was
this?
West Palm Beach?
For Labor Day, May. Isn't that
Okay,
May?
Labor Day. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that your question? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
so
okay.
this was after Puerto Rico.
This was before.
This
This
was
was like a
Oh,
month
Puerto
before.
Rico. Oh my god.
Okay.
So this is like the real moment that I'm about to tell you about. So her cousins were here who live in Germany, and they had their daughter with them. How old is their
She
daughter?
was not even 1 year old.
Okay. So they came and we were all just kind of like hanging out. They were getting to know me as a family. I felt very strangely but very awesomely comfortable with her family. They're very welcoming people, and I love that. And I remember it was a bright, beautiful, sunny Florida day, and she was walking around the backyard carrying her cousin's daughter and just like, bouncing her around like you do with a baby.
I'm gonna cry.
And I looked at her, and in that moment was the first time I thought to myself, that is the future mother of my children.
Wow.
I could literally cry right now. I'm so excited about
I
this.
didn't know that.
Um,
This news to me.
And I realized today that was the moment, actually, in the car on the way here, when I thought about that very critically.
Jordan, that is so,
So
beautiful.
You're
that-
very methodical, Jordan, in the best way. I like it.
That was the moment for me where I realized that she was going to be my wife.
Oh
Wow.
my
So-
god, that's incredible. That's
love
so sweet. Daniela, how about you, darling?
Let's see. I don't think for me there was specific moment. I think it was more, of course, the Puerto Rico trip. That trip was like, so we met in March. He asked me to be his girlfriend officially in April, and then we went to West Palm Beach May. June we went to Puerto Rico. I think the trip to Puerto Rico was a very important trip for our relationship. And that trip showed me, like, okay, this is fun. This is great. Like, this is real. Like, I want this. And I see him as my husband after that trip. But I think it was just more a series of events for me. It was not like a specific moment like you had, like you saw me. But for me, it was just his consistency and his commitment, and not only through his words but his actions. So I think just it's just a series of events of him just proving me that what he said, it was true. And because I had a kind of like a hard time on the very first beginning of our relationship not to believe everything, but it was like so good to be true type of thing. Like I remember I even told my friends, like, I don't know, like, is this real?
There
Like,
has to be something wrong with him, you know?
yeah, like you're it's kind of like the things you don't hear anymore. So, but then he proved me with actions that he really cared and that everything was like true. And I was like, okay, and he just convinced me, and I just fell in love with him, and I just realized that, yeah, like true love does exist, and it is possible to have a healthy, happy relationship, and it's just what I want for the rest of my life. And I for sure saw myself building a life with him because it was just I knew I was going to be with someone who was going to stay true to his word.
Consistent.
Word,
Like you said.
yeah,
Actions that meet the word.
Yes.
So I want to speak about one action because I did the same thing with Hannah, and it seemed way out of the norm in today's world.
Especially
that
in Los Angeles.
You actually asked her to be your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because I did the same thing to Hannah, and I don't know why, because I just was like, this is what I do. And she was like, did you just like formally ask me to
Ask
be
me
your
to be your
girlfriend?
girlfriend?
And I
Is
was
that
like,
not
yeah.
a thing in Australia?
It's,
Well, I
it's
just
not
feel-
that- I think it's just within like this modern world.
Yeah, like you just like
Yeah,
evolve
that's
into like a
true. It
relationship.
You
just
just
becomes-
like
it
slip
just
into
becomes
something, and
that,
you're like, oh
yeah.
well, I guess we're in a relationship now. But the fact that it was literally on New Year's Eve, and it was like as the clock struck 12, he looked at me, he's like, "Will you be my girlfriend?" I was like, "I will be your girlfriend," and it was just so sweet and again
Yeah.
intentional about like he
Yep.
was like, "I'm putting my feelings out there,
Yeah.
letting you know how I feel." Probably in his mind going, "Fuck, I really hope you say yes," but you know what I mean?
No, I was like, fuck, do I really want this?
Oh, shut up, you.
No, but it's true. It's actually a good point because I don't think a lot of people do that anymore. And I think for me, I made it clear from the beginning that I do not want any situationships. I do not want any like games.
We had an explicit conversation about that.
Yeah,
actually.
so he knew
So did
I
we.
wanted an official relationship, and I think that's why you asked me to officially.
Yeah,
be
we
your
were. I'll never forget it. We were sitting on my couch at the time. At the time, we didn't live together, and one of us asked each other. I think it was me. I asked her. I was like, "So what? Like, out of a relationship, what are your goals? Just a high level, like nothing specific." First thing she said was, "I don't want a situationship." First thing, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, "Say no more."
Yeah.
Done. And the day after her birthday, I asked her to be my girlfriend
Oh.
Wow, I love that.
because I didn't want to
Yeah.
share an anniversary with her birthday.
No, that's fair. That's completely fair. All right, so skipping ahead a little bit because
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are married now.
We are.
Are we allowed to share that?
So
And we can cut anything
We can cut
out
that.
if it
We can
doesn't
cut that
matter.
out.
yeah, no. It's the
No.
explanation that I will represent us in giving this explanation is no one knows yet, not even our parents.
Stop
No
it.
one.
We are waiting legitimately for the pictures to come
And the video.
and the video. There's video of our
Yeah.
Olivia's. Yeah. We got married in October.
They're
October
13, they
8th.
got married 13 days ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
We
I think they were engaged then.
Yeah, she just had a realization of how
Okay, wait. Does everybody know that you're engaged though?
yes,
Yeah.
Okay,
the
so let's-
world believes
Okay.
that we are engaged.
Let's go back then.
Well,
and-
no, what we could also do is, if we want, we could simultaneously put this out when you announce it to your family. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll
Okay, we'll
figure it
figure it
out.
out.
We'll keep in touch about it. We
It's
both.
not a secret. It's not gonna be a secret when this is out.
Yeah,
so-
by the
Okay,
time this
perfect. We don't
makes
want to
it-
blow the cover though.
No. By the time this makes it public, that everyone who needs to know will know.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we'll
good.
put it that way.
That makes me really happy because I really want to talk about it.
Yeah.
How did you propose? Did you know that he was going to propose, or was this like still this like very spur of the moment kind of romantic thing?
Yeah, so we talked about this even that week that we texted before meeting. We joked about like eloping and things like that. It's funny because we have the screenshots and we go back to read what we said to each other back then when we didn't even know about like when we didn't even meet in person yet. And
This was like day 2 of that 7-day period of texting.
Yeah.
We were making jokes
You're like,
about
we should
like
just
And-
elope.
goes
Yeah.
on one date, elopes.
yeah, he texts me, imagine we go on one day and we elope or something like that. And we just laughed about it. But yeah, so I think I knew he was going to propose. We have been talking about this since we met. So it's not a secret. Like we both knew what we felt for each other. And I just had no idea how it's gonna happen, or I knew he was planning something. I knew he was planning a trip because I saw him doing it, and of course, like we were living together, and I saw him like telling his friends and like writing letters, which I never read, but I know he was letting them know he was going to propose, and I just had no idea how it's gonna happen, which I think it made it even more exciting because it just created expectations. And I think as at least for me, I wanted to be prepared for that moment. Like I wanted to have my nails ready. I wanted to be like
Prepared.
wearing, yeah. So I appreciated to know, at least for me, that it was gonna happen. But I also wanted to be surprised, which he did a really good job.
Very difficult for men.
Yes.
Not
It's
easy.
like, we
Not
have
easy
to-
at all.
We have to tell you, get dressed up really nice. We're gonna go to this really nice dinner.
Yeah.
That was so
But
she
it's for my friend.
Hannah asked me how I did it, and that was part of the reason why I had to tell her because I flew her to Florida to do it. And so like it wasn't a situation where I could just tell one of her friends like, "Hey, on Thursday, can you take Daniela to get her nails done and just like make sure."
She
Don't
had to
say
be a
anything.
little bit prepared.
Yeah, like don't make it weird. Just be like, "I need to talk about my relationship problems or something," and like just like I didn't have that option,
Yeah.
so I had to tell her that was happening, but she had no idea until the day of where we were going.
Mm.
I think she had.
I found that when we were at the gate where we
Yeah.
were going. She just said, pack for this type of weather.
Oh wow, that's
I
really
love
cool.
that.
It was like at 50 degrees to 80, so it could be anywhere.
And then there was a lot that went into this to try to just like misdirection for her because I wanted her. She knew about it, and I was okay with that, but I wanted to make it exciting for her in a different way of like not knowing where or how it was going to happen or when on the weekend. So I wrote her 10 handwritten hints about where we were going, all different things like the round trip flight mileage, the flight time, the times of the sunsets.
You're setting the
that-
bar really high.
You
that we
really
were-
are, mate. You really are.
The times of the sunsets on both days where the sun was going down, because I was intending to propose at sunset.
My
Re-
head was spinning.
Did
Rep-
you try and figure it out?
Yes.
Oh,
I
it
was
drove her
going
crazy.
And I was
like, what do these
actually
mean?
like, it made me mad. I was like, I can't figure out this hint. So I was so frustrated.
And then, so beyond that, she didn't know this until after we got engaged. But periodically throughout the process of planning, I also made like, I guess I would describe them as like TikTok style videos of like, hey, it's this day, we're X amount of days away, and this is what I did today in preparation for our trip. Just thought you should know about it, blah, 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 whatever I wanted to say that day. All the way up until including the actual day I proposed, like 2 hours before when I picked the spot on the beach. Sideways rain, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Like,
really?
Complete disaster on the beach. And I'm like, oh, God, please don't do this to me today. And then South Florida weather kicked in, and 2 hours later, it was a gorgeous, like burnt orange
God listen to you.
sunset. Yeah. So we had a photographer. I flew a photographer down from Philadelphia that we both loved.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
She did a shoot for us back in May.
In May.
In May, I hired her in May to do a photo shoot that was 100% a test drive for engagement photos.
Who does a photo shoot with someone after just after one month?
Yeah, it
of
was like a month and a
relationship?
half, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to just do a photo shoot?"
We
Like,
did the
just-
same
We
thing.
did the same thing. We like
Oh,
because I was a
really?
model for a
Well-
long time, and my best friend, he was like, "Should we do a photo shoot?" I was like, "We can if you want."
That's
Like,
amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, she was great, and it is great. We love her, and so she did an amazing job the first time around. So I reached out to her. She was an amazing sport because I told her what I wanted to do with the whole trip. She had other engagement shoots scheduled for that weekend, and she moved them to accommodate the weekend of us getting engaged and then eventually married the next day.
Thank you,
So-
Kayla.
Yeah, shout out to Michaela.
Michaela, thank
she's
you.
awesome.
Wait a second. You got married the next day?
24 hours later.
Yes.
Shut the
Yes.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, so you got
Highly recommend to elope.
She's like, this is like the
highly
perfect way to
recommend
do
to
it.
elope the next day. You
You got engaged one day and then married the next.
Wow.
We,
Mhm.
to button up the how I did the engagement story was picked a spot on the beach, dropped a pin, sent it to Michaela and her husband, who's a videographer. Snuck out, met them outside of our Airbnb, put a mic on me, gave them the blanket and the lanterns with the candles that I bought at Target, and had this whole vision in my head of what I wanted this to look like, and what I knew she wanted it to look like. Photographer and her husband set up everything perfectly on the beach. There wasn't a soul in sight. I walked her out to this blanket, and at first she didn't see it, and then she saw it and realized what was about to happen.
Yeah.
And our favorite part of getting engaged, besides the actual thing itself, is we were walking towards this blanket, and I'm a very prepared person. I knew exactly how much time I needed to say what I wanted to say to her before getting down on one knee. And she likes to talk a lot, which I love about her. And she started a sentence that I knew was going to turn into a long monologue. And I kid you not, like 15 seconds before proposing to her, she starts talking, and I knew it was going to be long. And I looked her dead in the face, and I was just like, stop talking.
Right
now.
Like, stop talking.
And she was just like,
What?
oh, yeah, what? And then said what I wanted to say and proposed, and that was that.
Beautiful. We had the
Wow.
most beautiful sunsets. Like, God parted the sky. It was so beautiful.
Seriously?
Yeah, it was so beautiful.
Well, like
And that was 2 weeks ago?
That would have been
Yeah.
October 7th was,
Wow.
was the date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I thought we went quick, but like you guys
We
really
eloped
take the
too.
cake. Yeah, we got married at the courthouse. We were going to have a big.
Mhm.
Well, he proposed to me on the roof of his old New York building. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt and hadn't done my nails at all. I didn't know what the hell was happening.
No, you
But
got your
then
nails done with Brittany, didn't you?
no,
Didn't you go on like a girls trip with Brittany and Nicole?
no, that was after we got. That was literally the last trip back to New York. But then I left to Australia for 3 months. We got
Oh,
engaged, and then I went back to
wow.
Australia for 3 months, and he was here. So that was quite difficult, but it was also just a
Yeah.
very unique story. And then we were trying to plan a wedding, and I was like, nah, don't want to do that. Let's just go down to the courthouse, and we did that. So it was
Yeah,
very-
it's amazing.
those
We-
those types of
We have a lot
stories.
of similarities.
Yes,
We do.
a lot.
And
Yeah.
many. I'm sitting here thinking about everything you
Yeah.
just said is a lot of what she was pretty open with me about. And I, having now been a part of 6 or 7 weddings that I've been in, very close friends of mine, you realize at that point, like, wow, this is a lot.
Oh,
And
yeah.
for like a standard American wedding bride and groom, it's a lot of like, I don't want to call it a dog and pony show, but it's a lot
It
of like
basically is though.
doing that for your friends and family. And realistically, how much time do you get to spend
I
with
think
your
that's
partner?
100% right. And that's one thing she saw coming to my family. We would go to all these weddings, and she was like, "Oh my god, there's all this food and all these people. Like, what is this?"
And it's beautiful.
Oh,
If
for
that,
sure.
if that's
But
what
it's-
floats your boat, go for it. No
Yeah.
worries. But I think that like when you get into, you're having that wedding for other people. You're not having it for
Mhm.
yourself. And I always wanted us to look back on the day that we got married,
Yeah.
even if we do have a ceremony in the future, to know that
Yeah.
when we got married, it was just him and
Yeah.
I at the courthouse looking at each
100%.
other, and that was the most beautiful thing. So I'm so glad that you
That's
guys.
exactly how I felt. That's
Mm.
beautiful. That's exactly how I felt. I just wanted to be present, like fully be present that day and do the things that we love. Like we had an amazing brunch in the morning. We walked around the beach and we just were so into each other that day, and we got married and it was just the two of us and we were able to soak into every emotion, and that was just beautiful versus
awesome.
entertaining people, which of course, yeah, we'll probably celebrate with our friends and family, close friends and family in the future, but we had that for us and only us, and I think that's beautiful. I highly recommend to everyone.
as do we.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
All
also
right.
stamping on that.
All right, so
For
we've
sure.
got a
Yeah.
couple of minutes
Do you
left.
have any important things? you
I
wanna ask?
think the only thing that I really want to ask at the end is we've given advice to people, and obviously you guys are newly married and you met on the app. So I suppose, like, what is your advice to the single people out there on how they should navigate the online dating world?
You wanna go first?
Yeah, it's a 2-word answer for me. A 3-word. Upfront, honest communication. That's it. That's not, in my opinion, not only necessary for the world of online dating, but everyone that I and we have talked to about like what makes a successful marriage, always communicate, or some version of that answer is what gets said. And her and I pride ourselves on like good, bad, ugly. We will always communicate.
Yeah.
That's
Love that.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Love
I
it,
would
Danielle.
say just I would say work on your before putting yourself out there, work on getting to know yourself first and know what you want and what you want to find in someone, what qualities, what values, and just stand on what you're looking for.
Mm.
Don't settle for less. Don't think
Okay.
it doesn't exist. Don't think that what you're asking for it's too much,
Mm.
because it's not. If you truly stay true to yourself, you're gonna get that back to you. And I think it's just so important to just actually figure out first what you want. And because when I did that, it was like a switch. I instantly found that. So
You
I
attracted it into your life.
yes,
Really and truly.
yes, and I learned a lot too. So I just applied everything into my dating experience, and it worked.
I love that so much. Actually, I have one more question and then we're done. In your opinion, what sets First Rounds and Me apart from other dating apps? And why do you believe it's the best choice for singles looking out there? Because obviously you guys met each other.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you go.
I think what makes the difference is that you get that, again, that feeling of going on a blind date with a little sneak peek. And what makes it different is that the person behind the screen, it's most likely to have a clear like knowledge of what they want, and they
Similar
are
intentions.
yes,
Mhm.
exactly. So they're just not doing it for fun. They just, you probably, if you're using the app, it's because you're mature enough to be there, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would just, when I think about the whole concept, to me, it feels like it attracts a more mature demographic in general. And just in terms of what sets it apart is I truly felt like in my experience, you had to have a high level of intentionality behind being
Mhm.
present on the app because of, I don't want to say like the hoops you had to jump through, but like you had to be prepared unless you wanted to go on a super awkward date, like to go be ready to go on that date with that person. So the intentionality, I think, is what sets it apart.
Yeah,
Incredible.
That's all.
I would say First Rounds on Me, it's the app for intentional daters. If you know what you want, go on First Rounds on Me.
I love that.
She said it better than I'm
Yeah.
going to say it, so I'll
Love
just leave it at that.
And
Jordan.
before you close, I just want to say, obviously, going back to when Olivia approached us, you approached us. Coming in, even this morning, I was like, I have no idea what to expect from this because I never met you or spoke to
Yeah.
either of you. And now speaking to you for an hour and coming out of this, I couldn't have thought English.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I couldn't have thought of two more perfect people to have found love on our app. The way you speak about the app, the way you went in and approached it, and just you two as people, like, couldn't have been more perfect of a guest.
Like I
And
said, the
thank you
palpable
for
love,
all of you,
yeah.
Olivia, for putting this together, for you two and being so amazing, and
Yeah.
obviously,
No, thank
my
you
wife.
guys for
Yeah.
creating this space for us to be there.
I was going to say, thank you, first of all. We are what we are as people and as a relationship, but without the two of you,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be sitting here. So
It makes it
Oh,
all worth
so
it.
it really
Even this
does,
one
yeah.
story.
First of many, I hope, but I'm so happy and so
Yeah.
grateful the fact that you guys were the first inaugural kind of love story from it because you're the perfect.
oh,
Yeah, high
And
five.
oh, and I
Keep
don't
me
know,
hanging.
I
I got it.
I don't know if Joey wants me to do this, if this is like an official podcast, but thank you for joining us. And if you want to check out one of our previous podcasts, go to First Rounds on Me on YouTube and check out the app, FROME, on the App Store or iOS, and follow us on Instagram, First Rounds on Me. Was that good, Liv?
Jordan and Daniella, thank you so much for being here. We
Thank
really
you for having
appreciate
us.
it.
so
Thank you.
We appreciate
much.
it.
So honored.